I want to quickly talk to you about how to lease a new card with bad credit. So if you want to lease a card and you have poor credit, how do you go about doing that? So let's first talk about the possibility here. So can you lease a car with bad credit? The answer is yes. But even if you have poor credit, you can lease a car, but you just have to be aware that you might be paying a lot more. Because when you think about a lease is kind of similar to a loan or a line of credit. In other words, you have an underwriting process, a credit decision has to be made. Okay, so your rates overall may be less favorable than those with strong credit. So this is something to really think about. So a dealer will give you, if you have bad credit, will give you worse. I mean, I don't want to call it worse rates, but they will give you a less favorable condition than others. Okay. Now, what's the credit score that you need to lease a car? Basically, you don't need a specific credit score to qualify for a lease. Okay, so whether you go to your local dealership or you go to a national dealership, you don't need a specific, like nobody is saying, well, you got to have 600 in FICO score to qualify for a lease. Okay, now the thing is that on average, basically car leases want you to have a decent credit score. Okay, so 600 650 is actually kind of good to really think about. Now, one thing I want to say here is that credit is important overall when you list in a car, whether you listen a used car or a new car. Okay, because it is a learning process. So one thing I want to say here is that what you want to understand is that if you have bad credit, you got to look at ways to actually mitigate that decision, the negative decision from the lender. I mean, not from the lender, but from the leasing company. What I'm trying to say here is that when you have bad credit, you got to really ask yourself: do you have, let's say, a decent income coming in? Do you have a job, right? Are you employed full time? Because what do you need the lease car for? Think about that, and also your ability to repay over the leasing terms. Leases are usually signed for, let's say, a time frame of 5 years or 3 years or 2 years. Make sure you are able to repay to actually not to repay to pay the lease agreement every single month over the lease terms. So if you want to lease a new car with bad credit, you have to understand that you also have the possibility to buy a car. You can always buy a car, a used car or a new car if you don't like the conditions that are coming with the leasing, okay? Because leasing a car with bad credit does have some drawbacks. So you got to be aware of the drawbacks before you make your decision. And there are three primary drawbacks to really account for if you have to really go with a lease this year. First of all, you have high cost. You have also possible restrictions. And finally, you have no equity. So when I speak about equity here, I'm speaking about a lease as opposed to you buying a car, right? So when you lease a vehicle instead of buying one, you actually walk away with no equity at the lease's end. Let's say if the lease ends after 5 years you have no equity in the car at all. Okay, this means what? It means that you won't have any trading or monetary value to apply to the purchase or even a new lease. And also, in terms of restrictions, you just need to understand that when you have bad credit, dealers may decide you can only lease vehicles within a given price range, and some dealerships may not work with you at all because of your financial situation. So, and also you have a high cost because having a low credit score could mean that you will need to do more. Like make I'll talk about the steps later on, but what I want to say is that you might need to do more to qualify for a leasing agreement. For instance, large down payment, and your lease offer may also include a higher interest rate. So the APR, instead of being 15%, for instance, it can be a 20%. Okay. So in leasing terms, this is known as a money factor when you actually have bad credit, and this can affect the borrowing cost and also make corresponding payments unaffordable. So this is something to really think about. But long story short, you are able to lease a new car with bad credit, as long as you're willing to pay for it. So before leasing a new car, if you have bad credit, there are things you can do to actually improve your chance of leasing approval. So okay, so if you want to lease a new car with bad credit, think about making a large down payment. This will help you big time. The thing is, basically, you don't have to really make a down payment at all because some dealerships are okay with 0% down payment. But if you have bad credit, your risk of default is kind of high. I mean, vis-a-vis. I mean, that's the way the leasing company is looking at your application, right? So it doesn't mean that you will default on the leasing agreement. It just means there is a high possibility for you to really default. So what you want to do is that you are able to really mitigate that sort of that fear, okay, by making a large down payment. So what happens here is that instead of paying 5% or 10%, you can offer to pay 20%, for instance. So if you're able to offer 20%, you are allaying fears, and like you allaying fears that you might default. So that will really help you qualify faster for a nice lease. Okay, so you can lease a new car basically by making a big down payment because it shows your potential lender that you are committed to paying off your lease, on time. So basically, you also have a loan cosigner. You can also find a loan cosigner. So if you want to get approval, you can get a cosigner, which could be a trusted relative or a friend with a stronger credit history than you. Okay, so that's kind of cool. One thing I need to say about quickly about the larger down payment is that basically, if you make a down payment on a lease, this is called capitalized cost reduction. Okay, so the more money you provide in a down payment, the lower your monthly payments will be. Okay, so that's kind of cool. And so, talking about the cosigner, a cosigner actually adds a layer of security to the lessor, to the leasing agency. Okay, it can also help you establish credit that way. So that's kind of cool. Now, one thing you need to be aware of is that the cosigner shares responsibility for the lease, and their credit will be affected if you do not pay. So make sure you choose someone that you trust or someone who trusts you too. It has to go both ways, okay? Because if you fail to make lease payments, your cosigner will need to do so. So that's really like that cosigner is on the hook if something were to go bad with you. So make sure that you choose the right person. So if you want to lease a new car with bad credit, besides actually making a large down payment, okay, you can also try to you could besides making a large down payment and getting a loan cosigner, you can try to lower your debt to income ratio. This is going to help you because again, a lease is actually a credit decision. It's not a loan per se, but it is there is an underwriting process that goes into the whole leasing like application. Okay, so you want to lower your debt to income ratio. Your debt to income ratio actually works in inverse relationship to your FICO score. So when your DTI, as it's called, debt to income ratio is high, then your FICO score goes down. So if you want to increase your FICO score, you want to lower your debt to income ratio. Okay, and basically your debt to income ratio, if you have anything below 35%, you are really good. Okay, 35%. I mean, the lower the better anyway. Okay, so if you have a 10% debt to income ratio, that's a lot better than having a debt to income ratio of 15% or 20%. Okay, so the lower the better. And so you are able to actually provide a better credit profile to the lender. And you also want to shop around. So if you want to really lease a new car with bad credit, you want to shop around because basically you might think, well, my car dealership has the best offer, but you'll be really surprised that other dealerships in the area might be able to offer you a better rate. Okay, and the dealership doesn't even need to be in the area. You can actually look for national car dealership chains and apply there, and maybe you might qualify to get a better rates. Okay, And sometimes you can also go to a lender. Actually, there are specialized lending institutions that will really will give you that actually focus only on leasing cars, or at least arranging car leases for folks with bad credit. Okay, so if you just want to search, if you are interested, let me know in the comment section, and I'll certainly help you out. Okay, based on your city and state, based on your location. Another way to increase your chances of leasing a new car with bad credit is to actually focus on improving your credit score. I mean, it's always good to make a large down payment, getting getting a loan cosigner, aiming to lower your debt to income ratio, or shopping around. But if you have time, let's say you don't have to really lease a car right now, but you want to wait for 3 months, you want to wait for 6 months, it's just a lot better to improve your credit score in the meantime, as opposed to shopping around. That way, you are increasing your chances of getting even a better offer, and that's what you want anyway. You want to really get a better offer. And so when I speak about improving your credit score, of course, you want to think about traditional ways, but also non-traditional ways. An example of non-traditional ways is to report rent and utility payments. Okay, so because you're paying rent every month anyway, so you might as well just get credit for it. Okay, so because when it comes to improving your credit score, a lot of folks think about, well, I need to report my credit card payments. I want to report my loan payments, whatever. But what about rent? What about utility payments? What about subscription services like Netflix or Disney if you have them, or Hulu if you have them? So if you have those services, you can report them to the credit bureaus. Okay, so self-reporting alternative data like this bills can help boost your score if you show steady payments. Now, you cannot report the data to Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, but there are companies that really facilitate that for you. Okay, so you want to go through them, and they will report the data for you, and that can help you potentially increase your FICO score big time. Okay, you also want to pay off any debt you can. If you can reduce your debt to income ratio or your credit utilization ratio, that can help also. You can request a credit limit increase. That can help you also reduce your CUR. And you can also dispute credit report errors. If there are errors that really are crippling your ability to get the car lease that you need, you want to fix those errors as well. Another way to lease a new car with bad credit is to actually opt for a less expensive car. Okay. So, but because what happens here is that your lease payments will depend on the value of the car that you will be driving, right? So, if for any reason you're having a hard time actually qualifying for a car that's actually worth 20 grand or 40 grand or 30 grand, for instance, maybe you can just go to a car that costs less. If the car costs, let's say, $15,000, right off the bat, you are paying half the amount in terms of leasing payments. Okay, all other things kept equal. So that's one option. The second option is, you can, instead of looking for a new car, you can look for, let's say, a used car, for instance. The main idea here is what? The main idea is to have the lease payments actually go down. The monthly lease payments go down. So if you have a used car versus a new car, you are basically saving money too. You're saving money not just in terms of the loan amount, the lease amount, but also the APR. Okay, so basically, a less expensive car might actually be easier for you to qualify for. You may also be able to find a dealership that leases used vehicles in your area as well. Another way to actually lease a new car with bad credit is to trading a vehicle. So if for any reason, if you want to really lease a new car with bad credit, and you do have a vehicle that you're currently driving, you can trade in that vehicle to actually get a new one. So trading in a vehicle with positive equity is like putting more money down, right? Just remember that when you're trading a vehicle, you got to have positive equity in that vehicle for you to qualify for, I mean, not qualify, for you to improve your chances of approval. Okay. And one thing I also want to say here is that if you are trying to get a, if you're trying to lease a new car with bad credit, just remember that timing also plays an important role. I mean, you want to really look for promotions. I mean, there are promo periods. Those dealerships, they have seasons where they need to really to get more clients. So you want to look for a promo and seize the opportunity at that time. So let me give you some alternatives to leasing a car with bad credit here. So if you're not able to find a competitive leasing deal, there are there are three alternatives for you to consider this year. You have a lease transfer, you have a used car lease, but you also have a in-house financing. Let me explain a little further. So, first of all, when I speak about lease transfer, a lease transfer may be an option if you cannot get a lease or a lease with favorable terms. So companies like Swap a Lease and Lease Trader specialize in pairing people who want to get out of a lease with those who want a lease. So that's kind of cool because you are able to really get into a lease that you did not qualify for originally. So while lease takeovers still require a credit check to qualify, the terms could be more favorable without requiring a down payment. Okay, so that's kind of cool because, and if you want to have the car real fast too, you also have the possibility of leasing a used car. I think I've said this before, but I just want to insist on that. Okay, not all dealerships offer used cars for lease, so you may have to shop around to find a dealership in your area that offers this service. And if you do, note that all the terms that they're giving you, you have to really read through the fine prints. Okay, see exactly how much you will pay during the lease because you may find a better deal by purchasing a used car. So this is something you need to really think about. And finally, think about in-house financing. So there are also a lease here, pay here dealers that offer a in-house financing for cars they lease. Now the downside is that the leases often have a far higher price tag and steeper monthly payments. And so, in addition, the lease payments terms are actually generally far from ideal. You may be responsible for covering car maintenance costs, okay? And the selection of cars available at least here, pay here dealers may be older or more limited. So, something to really think about this year, okay? So, bottom line is that if you are trying to lease a new car with bad credit, you have to really you have to be creative, okay? Think about making a large down payment, getting a loan co-signer, aiming to lower your debt to income ratio, shopping around, improving your credit score, opting for a less expensive car, or trading in a vehicle. That's going to help you big time, especially when it comes to getting the best offers around. So here's an epilogue into this conversation. I spoke to you about how to lease a new car with bad credit. I explained to you how to go about it and whether or not leasing a car with bad credit was even possible in the first place. And the short answer is yes, it is possible, but you have to be ready to pay more in terms of interest, but also in terms of down payment if needed. Thank you so much. God bless you. I will see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.